Get out! I said get out of here now, you useless piece of trash! The hoarse scream tore through the silence of the rainy night, echoing down the narrow hallway of the tenement before Sadie could even process the violence of what was happening. The rotten wooden door of her room burst open with a bang that made the walls shake, and her thin body was shoved onto the wet sidewalk with brutal, inhuman force. Sadie stumbled, her bare feet slipping on the slick, greasy cement of the entrance. She fell to her knees, feeling her skin scrape against the rough asphalt of the street. The icy gutter water, mixed with oil and trash, instantly soaked the cuffs of her faded jeans, climbing up her legs like a frigid embrace of death. "Mr. Russo, please, don't do this," Sadie pleaded, her voice choked with tears and sudden cold. She tried to stand up, but her legs trembled so much they wouldn't obey. The rain fell torrentially, thick and heavy, one of those summer storms that seem to want to wash the world of its sins. But for those without a roof over their heads, it sounded only like a final sentence. "I will pay, I swear on all that is sacred. I got some extra cleaning jobs for next week uptown. I will pay the 2 overdue months with interest. Promises don't put food on the table, and they don't pay my electricity bill." The fat man, in a dirty tank top that barely covered his prominent belly and with a face red from alcoholic rage, appeared at the door. He held a black trash bag, bulging and poorly tied. "I'm tired of your sad stories, girl. Every month it's the same old song and dance. Oh, my mother died. Oh, the medicine is expensive. Your problem." With a grunt of effort, he kicked the bag out. The thin plastic did not withstand the impact against the stone curb. It tore, scattering Sadie's few possessions into the dark runoff flowing down the slope. "No!" Sadie cried, crawling towards her belongings. A grimy white blouse was carried away by the water. A pair of old sneakers floated, spinning in the current. But what made Sadie's heart stop was seeing a small wooden picture frame with cracked glass fall into the mud. She threw herself over it, protecting it with her body, getting her face and hair dirty in the filthy water. She frantically wiped the glass with her shirt sleeve, trying to see if the photo was still intact. It was the only photo she had of Sadie's mother, smiling on a sunny day, before the cancer, before the debts, before the absolute loneliness. Around, windows opened. Curious neighbors peeked from behind curtains. Mrs. Higgins, from 302, shook her head in disapproval, not at the cruel landlord, but at the disorder in the street. No one came down. No one offered help. Poverty smells of isolation, and Sadie smelled that scent stronger than the street sewage. "Take your trash with you," Mr. Russo yelled one last time, his voice competing with thunder. "If I see you lurking around here again, I will call the police and say you tried to rob me." The door slammed shut with a definitive dry sound, like the final nail in the coffin. The key turned in the lock, the metallic sound echoing like the end of a life. Sadie remained there, kneeling in the storm, paralyzed, the rain mixed with the warm tears streaming down her face, salting her lips. She was 26 years old, had worked since she was 12, had never stolen a cent, had never harmed anyone. And there she was, discarded like a mangy cur. Shaking violently, she began to gather what she could. Her clothes were heavy with water and mud. She stuffed them back into what remained of the torn bag, hugging it against her chest as if it were a baby. "Mother," she whispered to nothing. "What do I do now?" There was no answer, only the relentless sound of rain lashing the asphalt. With nowhere to go, Sadie began to walk. The wind cut like a razor, piercing her thin shirt and freezing her bones. She walked aimlessly, guided only by the primitive instinct of survival. She needed to get out of the neighbor's sight. She needed to disappear. The lights of the big city shone in the distance, in the tall, mirrored buildings where rich people slept on Egyptian cotton sheets, drinking expensive wines, totally oblivious to the hell happening in the dark streets below. Sadie hated those lights. They seemed to mock her. She walked for hours. Her bare feet bled, cut by tiny stones and glass shards invisible in the muddy water. Every step was torture, but stopping meant freezing. That was when she saw the overpass, the underpass. It was a grim place, avoided even by the police, with the acrid smell of old urine, burnt oil, and despair. But the massive concrete structure blocked the rain. Sadie went down the side embankment, slipping on the earth that had turned into slick mud. She fell, landing seated below on the dry, dusty ground, protected by the giant slab above. The city noise there was muffled, distant. She dragged herself to a corner, near a graffiti-covered pillar, and curled up, hugging her knees, trying to conserve what little warmth she had left. Her teeth chattered so hard her jaw ached. She closed her eyes, exhausted, praying to pass out, for the night to pass quickly, to wake up and discover it was a nightmare. But then she heard a moan. It was not a sleeping moan. It was a low, hoarse, guttural sound. The sound of something dying. Sadie froze, her eyes wide in the darkness. Fear made her hold her breath. An underpass at night could hide monsters worse than the cold. Drug dealers, crack users in a frenzy, murderers. The moan came again, followed by a dry, horrible cough, as if lungs were being torn. "Water, please." The voice was male, but it did not sound threatening. It sounded broken, fragile. Sadie strained her eyes in the gloom. A few feet from her, near a pile of trash and construction debris, there was a figure. It looked like a pile of old rags thrown away, but the pile moved. It was a man. He was lying on his side, curled in a fetal position, trembling so much he seemed to be having a seizure. Sadie hesitated. Her instinct, sharpened by years of survival on the streets, screamed, "Run! Flee! Don't get involved!" But her heart, that damned bleeding heart that always made her give up her seat on the bus or share her lunch, spoke louder. She slowly stood up, her legs aching, and approached. The smell hit her before the sight, the smell of metallic, fresh blood. The man was battered. There was a deep cut on his forehead. Dried blood mixed with soot from the ground, forming a dark crust. His face was swollen, purple with bruises. He was wearing what appeared to have once been a white dress shirt, now torn, missing buttons, stained with mud and blood. "Sir?" Sadie called, her voice coming out in a hoarse whisper. The man opened his eyes. They were dark, feverish, glazed over. He looked at her, but did not see her. He was lost somewhere between pain and delirium. "Cold," he whispered, his dirty, trembling hand reaching out into the air, his fingers clenched, trying to grasp something invisible. "So cold. Mother." Sadie felt a tightness in her chest that almost suffocated her. She knew that look. She had seen it in her mother's eyes during her last days in the public hospital. It was the look of someone giving up. She looked at her torn bag. Inside, wrapped in a t-shirt, was a 500 ml bottle of mineral water. It was less than half full. It was all she had to drink. If she drank that, she might be able to stave off hunger until the next day. If she gave it to him... She looked at the bottle. She looked at the man, trembling on the dirty ground. "Damn it," she cursed softly, angry at her own kindness. "You're an idiot, Sadie. A complete idiot." She knelt on the dusty ground beside him. She touched the stranger's forehead. He was burning up. His skin radiated a frightening, feverish heat, contrasting with the cold shivers racking his body. Hey, wake up! You need to drink." She carefully lifted his head, resting it on her wet lap. He was heavy, dense. Despite the deplorable situation, Sadie noticed in an absurd detail that he smelled of expensive cologne mixed with blood, a woody scent that did not belong in that underpass. She pressed the bottle to his cracked and bleeding lips. "Drink." Slowly. He drank with animal desperation, choking, the water running down his chin. In seconds, the bottle was empty. The water that would save Sadie was gone. The man let out a deep sigh, a sound of momentary relief, and his eyes focused on her for a brief second. There was confusion there, but also immense silent gratitude that pierced her soul. Who are you?" he murmured, his voice failing, his words slurred. "Nobody," Sadie answered bitterly, adjusting the collar of his torn shirt to try and cover his chest, exposed to the cold wind. "Just someone who doesn't have a pot to piss in, just like you." He tried to laugh, but it came out as a grimace of pain. Suddenly, he grabbed Sadie's wrist. The grip was strong, surprising for someone in that condition. "Don't leave me here," he pleaded. His eyes filled with tears. They were not tears of sadness. They were tears of pure panic. The primitive panic of dying alone in the dark, forgotten by the world. "They'll come back. Don't leave me alone." Sadie looked at his hand holding her wrist. She could break free. She could run. Leave that problem behind. What did she have to do with that man's fight? "They'll come back," he said. That meant danger, but she saw her own loneliness reflected in his eyes. She saw the same fear she felt when the landlord slammed the door in her face. "I am not going," she whispered, knowing she was sealing her fate at that moment, tying her miserable life to that stranger. "I am not going anywhere." The rain outside intensified, the wind howling like a hungry wolf, throwing icy spray where they were. The underpass was not enough protection. "We cannot stay here," Sadie said, assessing the location. "If the police show up here, or the guys who beat you up come back, we will die." She looked around. There was a shack made of plywood and blue plastic tarp about 200 yards away, near the disused train tracks. She had seen it earlier. It looked abandoned for a long time, partly dismantled, but it had walls. "Can you walk?" she asked. He shook his head, his eyes rolling, his consciousness fading in and out. Sadie took a deep breath, filling her lungs with damp air. She was thin, but life had given her strong arms from so much scrubbing floors, wringing out rags and carrying heavy buckets. "Come on, big guy. Help me out. Don't die now. I don't have money for a funeral." It was hell dragging him. Every step was a fight against gravity and the mud. He groaned with every movement, his dead weight almost pulling her down into the slippery mud. Sadie fell twice, scraping her knees even more, cursing every swear word she knew, crying from anger, exhaustion, hunger. But she didn't let go of him. They were two castaways clinging to each other in the middle of the ocean. When they finally entered the shack, Sadie collapsed, her heart pounding in her throat. The place reeked of mold and rats, but it was dry. She laid him on a pile of old cardboard in the most sheltered corner. The night that followed was the longest of Sadie's life. His fever worsened drastically. He began to thrash, kicking the air, shouting disconnected orders at invisible people. "Cancel the contract!" he yelled, his voice authoritative and strange in that scene of misery. "It's a trap! Sloan, don't sign! Where is security? Fired! Everyone is fired!" Sadie heard that, frightened, as she tried to clean his face with a piece of her own wet blouse soaked in the rainwater she was catching with her hand from the drip. "Easy, sir." "Shh. There's no contract here," she whispered. "My head, it's going to explode," he cried immediately after, regressing. "Mom, it hurts." He was trembling so much his teeth chattered audibly. The pre-dawn cold was brutal. Sadie had no blankets. Her clothes were wet. His were torn. She looked at him. If she did nothing, he would become hypothermic before sunrise. Swallowing shame and modesty, Sadie did the only thing she could. She lay down beside him on the dirty cardboard. She wrapped her arms around the stranger's wide, trembling torso, pressing her body against his, using her own vital warmth to try and warm him. He was drenched in cold sweat. "Shh, calm down," she hummed softly. An old melody Sadie's mother used to sing. "It is over. I am here. No one will hurt you." Gradually, very slowly, the human contact seemed to calm him. The trembling subsided. His breathing, previously ragged and uneven, began to settle into a softer rhythm, synchronizing with hers. He stopped fighting the ghosts of the fever. Unconsciously, he turned and buried his face in Sadie's neck, hugging her back with desperate strength, as if she were the only anchor in a crumbling world. Sadie stayed there, awake, feeling the weight of that strange man, feeling his warm breath on her skin, and for the first time in years, she did not feel completely alone. Near dawn, the fever broke. The grey morning light streamed through the cracks in the rotten boards, illuminating the dust dancing in the air. Donovan opened his eyes. This time, they were clearer, though still exhausted. He blinked, trying to understand where he was. The rotten ceiling, the smell of mold, and the woman holding him. He turned his face and met Sadie's eyes, which watched him, tired. He stared at her for a long time in silence, as if trying to memorize every detail of her face, every freckle, the curve of her nose, the sadness in her brown eyes. "Van," he whispered, his voice raspy. "What?" Sadie asked, her voice hoarse from sleep and thirst. "My name. I think it's Van. Donovan." He frowned, wincing in pain, touching the makeshift bandage she had placed on his forehead. "I don't remember anything else. Just pain. A lot of pain. Bright lights. And then you." He weakly raised his hand and touched Sadie's cheek. The touch was gentle, reverent, from a man who knew he had been rescued from the abyss. "Are you real?" he asked. "Or did I die, and you're an angel who came to get me from this hell?" Sadie let out a dry, humorless laugh, but she did not pull his hand away. "If I were an angel, we'd be in heaven, Van, eating ambrosia and sleeping on clouds, not in a shack smelling of garbage with a leaky roof. To me, this is heaven," he said, with a seriousness that made Sadie blush, "because you are here. You saved me. Why did you do it? You don't even know me. You have nothing, I see that. And you shared what little you had with me." "Because nobody deserves to die alone," she answered simply, looking away, embarrassed. "Sadie's mother used to say that we only have what we give." Donovan tried to sit up, groaning from the pain in his ribs. He seemed to be looking for something, urgently fumbling in the pocket of his torn pants. "They took everything," he murmured, frustration growing. "My wallet, my phone." But his fingers found something in the torn lining of his jacket's inner pocket. He pulled it out. It was a watch, or what was left of one, a heavy, large silver watch. But it was destroyed. The leather strap was broken, held by a single thread. The sapphire crystal was shattered, as if it had been hammered or stepped on forcefully. The gold hands were bent, frozen in time. Donovan looked at the object with confusion. "They didn't take this. It must have fallen out when they hit me and got caught in the lining." He looked at the watch and then at Sadie. He took Sadie's hand, opened her dirty palm, and placed the destroyed watch there. "Will you keep it for me?" "Van, this is broken." "It's worthless," she said, looking at the shards of glass. "It's not even good enough to sell for scrap." "Yes, it is." He squeezed her hands around the object. "It's proof that I survived. And it's a promise. I feel like I'm someone who can give you much more than this. When I remember who I am, I'll give you the world, my angel. I'll get you out of this mess. I swear on my life." Sadie felt a lump in her throat. It was a promise from a feverish beggar, utterly worthless in the real world. But in that moment, with the morning light illuminating his intense eyes, it seemed the most beautiful and true thing she had ever heard. "All right, Van. I'll keep it." She put the watch in her jeans pocket. "Now rest. You're still warm. I'm going to get some food." Sadie's stomach ached with hunger, an empty, burning hole. She knew the corner bakery 3 blocks away threw out stale bread at that hour before opening for respectable clients. "Don't be long," he pleaded, childish fear returning to his eyes. "I have a feeling something bad is going to happen." Don't jinx it. I'll be back in a flash. I promise. Sadie left the shack, straightening her crumpled clothes, trying to wipe the mud from her face with spit. The world outside was grey and damp. She walked quickly, clutching the broken watch in her pocket, feeling the weight of that cold metal against her thigh. The search for food was humiliating. There were 2 other homeless people rummaging through the bakery's trash cans. Sadie had to be quick, almost aggressive, to secure a bag with 3 hard, sweet rolls and a dented carton of milk that had expired that day. But she succeeded. She smiled. Van was going to eat. She ran back, her heart beating fast, a strange anxiety to see him again, to see if the fever had gone down. But when she turned the corner of the vacant lot where the shack stood, she stopped abruptly, skidding in the mud. The bag of bread fell from her hand. The scene before her looked like something out of an action movie. There were 2 huge, armored black SUVs parked in the mud in front of the shack, violently contrasting with the surrounding squalor. And a private ambulance, one of those that looked like mobile ICUs, with silent rotating lights. Men in black suits, with earpieces and military bearing, surrounded the area in a security perimeter. Sadie saw 2 paramedics emerge from the shack, carrying a stretcher in a hurry. Donovan was on it. He was immobilized with a neck brace and an oxygen mask on his face. "Van!" The cry tore from Sadie's throat before she could think. She ran. She ran like crazy towards them, ignoring the danger. "Van! Wait! Where are you taking him?" She approached the ambulance just as they were loading the stretcher. Donovan stirred, agitated, trying to remove the mask. He heard her voice. "Van! It is me!" Sadie tried to step forward, reaching out her dirty hand to touch him. A strong arm, dressed in an impeccable synthetic fabric suit, blocked her path like an iron bar. One of the security guards, a 7-foot-tall hulk wearing dark glasses, held her by the shoulder. "Step back. Restricted area." "Let me go. He knows me. Van!" Sadie struggled, kicking the man's shin, fighting like a cornered animal. That was when she saw her. Emerging from behind the ambulance, stepping into the mud in Italian leather boots that cost more than the house Sadie lived in before she was evicted, was a woman. Blonde, her hair in a perfect bob that did not move in the wind, an impeccable beige overcoat. It was Sloane. She held a modern tablet where a red dot blinked on a map. She looked at the tablet, then at the shack, and finally at Sadie. Her gaze was not just contempt, it was surgical disgust. "The watch's signal stopped emitting here, but he does not have the watch," Sloane told the head of security, ignoring Sadie's screams. "Did you find the object?" "No, ma'am, the target was recovered, but the belongings are gone." Sloane sighed, annoyed, as if she had lost an earring, not found her almost dead fiancé. She finally focused on Sadie. Her eyes scanned the dirty clothes, the disheveled hair, the obvious thinness. "Who is that screaming creature?" Sloane asked, her voice cold, metallic. "She said she knows Mr. Donovan, Ms. Sloane," the security guard replied, twisting Sadie's arm slightly to make her stop moving. "Van!" Sadie shouted again, seeing Donovan look in her direction through the back door window of the ambulance. His eyes were glazed over, drugged by the strong medication they had already administered. He raised his hand, weakly tapping on the glass. Sloane saw the gesture, she saw the connection, and she hated it instantly. She walked over to Sadie, keeping a safe distance of 3 feet so as not to be contaminated by poverty. "Listen here, girl. Did you rob him? Was it you and your accomplices who did this to him?" "I saved him," Sadie shouted, crying with indignation. "I took care of him all night. He was burning up with fever. You were the ones who took too long." Sloane narrowed her eyes. Saved. The word sounded dangerous. If Donovan remembered he was saved by someone from the slums, he would feel indebted. And Donovan was too generous with those he thought deserved it. Sloane could not allow that bond. "Saved," Sloane repeated with a cruel, humorless smile. "Look at you. You are the picture of guilt. You probably lured him here to rob him." "I didn't steal anything." "Where is the watch?" Sloane asked quietly, hissing. "The emergency GPS signal brought us here. Where is the watch, you thief?" Sadie felt the weight of the metal in her pocket. Donovan had given it to her. He had asked her to keep it. If she handed it over now, Sloane would take the only proof of his promise. And Sadie, in an irrational protective instinct, decided to stay silent. "I don't know anything about a watch," Sadie lied, lifting her chin. Sloane analyzed her face. She knew it was a lie, but there was no time. Donovan needed to go to the hospital before the press found out. "Get this trash out of here," Sloane ordered the security guard, losing interest. "If she appears near the hospital or the company, call the police and arrest her for assault and theft." "No, Van, tell her," Sadie pleaded. Donovan, inside the ambulance, mumbled something only the paramedic heard. "And Gel." Sloane got into the black car next to the ambulance, slamming the door shut. The security guard shoved Sadie. It was not a shove to push her away. It was to hurt her. He threw her forcefully backward. Sadie flew and landed on her back in a deep mud puddle. The dirty water got into her mouth, into her nose. "Stay away, junkie." The security guard spat on the ground near her. The engines roared. The luxury motorcade sped off, tires squealing and splashing more mud onto Sadie, leaving with the urgency of those who have money to buy priority in traffic. Sadie remained there, fallen, coughing, covered in mud from head to toe. Silence returned to the vacant lot, heavier and more oppressive than ever. She reached into her pocket, trembling, and pulled out the broken watch. The shattered glass reflected the grey sky beginning to clear. It was all that was left. Proof that he had existed. Proof that for a few hours she had been important to someone. She clutched the watch against her chest, soiling it with mud, and cried. A painful, deep cry from someone who had lost the only hope she didn't even know she had. "You promised," she sobbed into the wind, her voice breaking. "You promised you would get me out of here, Van." But Van was gone, taken back to his golden castle, leaving her alone in hell, holding a broken piece of time, which was now the most dangerous and valuable thing in her life. 30 days. It seemed like a short time for those with comfort, for those who watched the calendar pass from inside an air-conditioned office with hot coffee. But for Sadie, those 30 days did not pass. They ran her over. They dragged on like 30 years of penance in a purgatory of concrete and rain. Since the grey morning Donovan was taken by the luxury ambulance, Sadie's world, which was already at rock bottom, discovered there was an even deeper basement. Homeless, evicted from the tenement, she wandered. The first 2 nights were the worst. She slept in the entrance of a bank branch, clutching her bag of clothes, waking every 20 minutes to the sound of cars or footsteps, her heart pounding with fear. Hunger stopped being a stomachache and turned into a constant dizziness, a fog that slowed her thoughts. She tried to find work. Oh, how she tried. "Documents?" asked the manager of a greasy downtown diner, looking at Sadie's wrinkled clothes with suspicion. I lost them in the flood. The water took my bag," Sadie lied, shame burning her face. Her documents had been left in her room at the tenement, locked away by the cruel landlord as collateral for payment. "No social security number, no chance next." The scene repeated itself in stores, bakeries, even at street vendor stalls. Nobody wanted to hire a woman who looked like street trash. Poverty was a stain that marked her skin, and everyone seemed to see it. Sadie started selling what she had, the extra pair of sneakers sold for $5 at a thrift store, the wool sweater, $2.50. The money barely covered a buttered roll and a watered-down coffee. But there was one thing she would not sell. Every night, in the public restroom at the bus terminal where she washed herself with diluted liquid soap, she unrolled the thick pair of socks from the bottom of her bag. And there it was, the broken watch, The shattered glass gleamed under the cold fluorescent light. She ran her finger over the crooked gold hands. "You promised, Van," she whispered to the inanimate object, ignoring the strange looks from the other women in the restroom. "You said you would give me the world. Where is my world?" Often, hunger screamed so loudly that she thought about going to a jeweler. The gold from that watch, even broken, would pay for a decent room for months. It would pay for hot food, but she could not bring herself to do it. Selling the watch would be selling the proof that he had existed. It would be admitting that it was all a delusion. And it was this stubbornness, this irrational and stupid hope that led her to the door of Spotless Services. It was a third-party cleaning company known for taking the contracts nobody wanted and hiring those nobody else would accept. The supervisor, a tired man named Mr. Barnes, looked at Sadie's calloused hands. "The work is hard. Commercial buildings, 12-hour shifts. It pays minimum wage, and we deduct transportation if you miss work." "I accept," Sadie said too quickly. "There's an open position at Empire Holdings. It's in an upscale district. They are demanding." The last girl left crying because the director yelled at her. Empire Holdings, his empire's name. Sadie felt an electric shock. It was destiny. It had to be. "I want this one," she said, her eyes shining for the first time in a month. "I can handle it. Nobody cleans better than I do." 2 weeks later, Sadie was in the lobby of Empire Holdings. The building was a mirrored blue glass tower that pierced the New York City sky, imposing, unreachable. The air conditioning was so strong that Sadie felt cold even in the grey polyester uniform, which was 2 sizes too big for her thin frame. She plunged the mop into the bucket of water smelling of chemical lavender. Her arms ached. Her back burned. Cleaning that endless granite lobby was like trying to dry the ocean. And he was not there. Every day she looked at the revolving door with her heart in her throat. She saw executives, secretaries, delivery people, but never him. "Stop daydreaming, girl," whispered Rhonda, the shift supervisor, a stout woman who seemed tough but had frightened eyes. "If the lady in red sees you standing around, she'll send us packing right away." "The lady in red?" Sadie asked, wringing out the cloth tightly. "The owner's fiancée, Ms. Sloane." Rhonda lowered her voice, looking around. "She's the devil. They say she runs things more than Mr. Donovan himself. The woman has ice in her veins. Don't cross her, got it?" Sadie swallowed hard. Sloane, the woman who called her trash, the woman who left her in the dirt. She was there, running everything. "And Mr. Donovan," Sadie ventured. "His travels are over for now. He was at a clinic in Switzerland, they say, recovering his mind after the accident." Sadie stopped. Switzerland. Accident. So that was the story. Accident. No underpass. No near-death experience on the street. They erased the truth. Suddenly the buzz in the lobby changed. It was a physical shift in the atmosphere. The revolving door stopped. The receptionists straightened their backs like soldiers. The head of security placed his hand on his earpiece. A heavy silence fell. Sadie felt a shiver down her spine. The blood in her veins seemed to warm. She knew. 2 security guards in black suits entered first, clearing a path like invisible war tanks, and then he walked in. Donovan. Sadie had to grip the mop handle to keep from falling. It was not Van. It was not the vulnerable, dirty man who trembled with fever and called for his mother. The man who walked through the automatic door looked like a Greek god sculpted from cold marble. His navy blue suit was so perfectly tailored it seemed like a second skin. His hair was impeccable. On his wrist, a new, gleaming, arrogant gold watch. He walked with predatory confidence, looking straight ahead, solemnly ignoring the "Good morning, Mr. Donovan" greetings he received. He held a leather briefcase and spoke on his cell phone with an expression of absolute boredom, mixed with a hardness in his eyes that had not been present at the underpass. Sadie stood paralyzed. The bucket was beside her. The mop dripped onto the polished floor, creating a forbidden puddle. It was him, alive, healthy, handsome, and completely a stranger. He passed less than 10 feet from her. The scent of his cologne, that same woody fragrance, Santal 33, which she had smelled mixed with blood and sweat, was now pure, strong, dominating. Van! The word escaped Sadie's lips in an involuntary whisper, laden with pain and longing. It was low, the lobby was noisy, but the connection between them, forged on the brink of death, was something science could not explain. Donovan stopped. He stopped mid-stride, as if he had hit an invisible wall. He slowly took the cell phone from his ear. He frowned. That same wrinkle of pain she knew. He brought his hand to his temple and closed his eyes for a second, as if he heard a sharp ringing. He turned around. His dark eyes swept the lobby, searching for the source of that sound, and found hers. Time stopped. The sound of the phone ringing at the reception desk faded. For a second, Sadie saw his mask of coldness crack. His pupil dilated. He stared at her, scanning her loose grey uniform, her tied-back hair, her makeup-free face. He did not see the cleaner. He saw a ghost, a feeling, the smell of rain. Sadie took a step forward, her heart pounding against her ribs so hard it hurt. "Van?" she said louder, her voice trembling. "It's me." Donovan took half a step back, startled by his own physical reaction. His heart had raced for no reason. "Who?" he began to say, his voice deep, hoarse. Sadie's bucket tipped over. With the uncontrollable trembling of her legs, she bumped into the yellow plastic. The soapy water spread across the granite floor, wetting the tip of Donovan's impeccable Italian shoe. The sound was like a bomb. "Oh my God!" Rhonda appeared out of nowhere, running, pale with terror. "Forgive me, Mr. Donovan, forgive me. This girl is new, she's clumsy. I'll clean it right away. Girl, get out of there." But Donovan did not look at Rhonda. He kept looking at Sadie, hypnotized and disturbed. "Do I know you?" he asked directly, dryly. But there was fear in his voice, fear of remembering. Sadie felt tears welling up. "It's me, Van." "Sadie," she ignored the water on the floor. "From the underpass, from the rain. You said I was your angel. You promised." The mention of the word angel made Donovan bring both hands to his head. The pain was violent. A white flash blinded his vision for an instant. He staggered. "Love!" The shrill and syrupy voice cut the moment like a blade. The private elevator opened and Sloane exited. She was stunning in a blood-red dress that screamed power and danger. She ran to Donovan, physically placing herself between him and Sadie, a barrier of expensive perfume and pure malice. "What is happening? Donovan?" Sloane held his face with both hands, forcing him to look at her, breaking eye contact with Sadie. "You are pale. Is it your migraine?" "This young woman..." Donovan pointed at Sadie, breathing with difficulty. She said, "The underpass. Angel. My head feels like it's going to explode, Sloane." Sloane looked at Sadie. The hatred in her eyes was cold and absolute. She recognized the rat immediately, and she realized the mortal danger. Donovan was reacting. His memory was trying to return. Sloane let out a nervous laugh, turning to Donovan, stroking his shoulder to calm him. "Darling, do not listen. Remember what the psychiatrist said in Switzerland? Trauma creates false memories. And remember what security warned us about? There is a disturbed woman who was lurking around the hospital, a stalker." Sadie felt her blood run cold. "Lies!" Sadie cried out, injustice burning her throat. "You know it is a lie. You were there. You pushed me into the mud. You stole him from me." Sloane looked at the security guards with a silent command. "Do you see, my love?" Sloane whispered into Donovan's ear. "She's crazy. She creates scenarios. She must have sold the watch she stole from you to buy crack, and now she is back wanting more money." The mention of the watch and the drug made Donovan stiffen. The headache subsided, replaced by anger at being deceived. "Get her out of here," Donovan said quietly, turning his face away. He could not look at Sadie. It hurt too much. "No! Van! The watch! I kept it!" Sadie tried to scream as a security guard twisted her arm. "Take this crazy woman to HR," Sloane shouted, taking control. "I want her out of my building." Sadie was dragged away, her feet slipping on the water and soap she herself had spilled. She saw Donovan entering the elevator, supported by Sloane, like an invalid. He did not look back. In the stuffy ground-floor room, Sadie awaited her sentence. Rhonda cried in a corner, afraid of losing her job too. The door opened. It was not HR with the termination. It was Sloane, alone. She entered and closed the door. The air in the room seemed to turn toxic. Sloane walked over to Sadie, who was sitting on a plastic chair, holding her sore arm. "You are a persistent pest, aren't you?" Sloane said, analyzing Sadie with disgust. "Like a cockroach. You step on it and it keeps wiggling its legs." "I did not steal anything," Sadie said firmly, raising her eyes. "And I still have the watch." Sloane laughed, a dry laugh. "Oh, please. I had that filthy shack searched the next day. There was nothing there but trash and rats. You must have traded that junk for a crack rock on the first corner. Don't try to bluff me, girl. I know who you are. A nobody." Sadie felt a secret relief. Sloane thought she no longer had the watch. Her trump card was safe. "I want my job back," Sadie said. "Job?" Sloane raised a perfect eyebrow. "You think you're going to stay here after that display? I was going to have you arrested." "But—" Sloane walked around the room, touching the peeling walls. Donovan got agitated. He has that annoying hero complex. He felt sorry for the poor crazy girl. "If I fire you, he'll keep asking questions. He'll smell a rat, and I don't want him thinking about you, not even out of pity." Sloane stopped in front of Sadie and smiled. It was the cruelest smile Sadie had ever seen. "So, I had a better idea. You're going to be promoted." "What?" "I'm putting you on the 40th floor cleaning crew, the executive suite." Sloane leaned in, whispering, "I want you to see. I want you to be there every day. I want you to see him kissing me. I want you to see him signing checks for millions while you earn crumbs. I want you to see him looking at you with disgust, thinking you're a lying addict." Sloane gripped Sadie's chin tightly, digging in her red-painted nails. "This is my punishment for you. So close, yet untouchable. You'll serve his coffee, and he won't even know your name. And if you open your mouth to say, 'the underpass' again, I'll put a wad of cash in your bag, call the police, and you'll rot in jail for grand larceny. Understood?" Sadie swallowed her tears. It was a sadistic proposal, but it was the chance, the only chance to make him remember. "I accept," Sadie said. "Great. Welcome to hell, dear." The following days were indeed hell. Sadie went up to the 40th floor like someone walking to the gallows. Day 1. Donovan was in a meeting. Sadie entered to collect the coffee cups. She made sure to pass close to him, letting the scent of her cheap soap, the same she used in the shack, reach him. Donovan stopped speaking mid-sentence. He sniffed the air, confused. His eyes searched for Sadie, but Sloane, sitting next to him, knocked over her own cup on purpose. "Oh, how clumsy I am!" "Clean this up now, girl," Sloane yelled, breaking the trance. Sadie had to kneel at Sloane's feet to clean the coffee from the carpet, while Donovan returned to talking business, cold and distant. Day 3. Sadie was cleaning the glass window behind Donovan's desk. He was alone. The phone rang. He answered, laughing at something, a genuine deep laugh. Sadie stopped. That laugh. It was the same one he gave when she shared bread with him. She looked at his reflection in the glass. He caught her looking. His smile faded. "Did you lose something?" he asked sharply. "No, sir, you seem happy." "And why wouldn't I be?" I have everything a man could want. He said this but ran a hand across his forehead as if trying to convince himself. Day 7. It was the worst day. Sloane brought the wedding invitation samples to choose from. She made sure Sadie held the paper samples while they decided. What do you think of this one, love? Linen paper, gold lettering. Donovan and Sloane. Sounds perfect, doesn't it? Sloane asked, kissing Donovan's neck. Sadie held the invitations, her hands trembling. Donovan looked at the invitations. Then he looked at Sadie's hands, at the calluses, at the short, clean nails. Sadie. He said her name for the first time. Not girl. Sadie. Her heart stopped. Yes, Mr. Donovan. You... He seemed to fight against a mental fog. Have you ever been in the rain with me? The question hung in the air, filled with hope. Sadie opened her mouth to say, yes, yes, my love, but the door burst open. The secretary entered with urgent papers at Sloane's command, who had discreetly sent a text message from under the table upon realizing the danger. The moment broke. Donovan blinked, the fog returning. Forget it. It must be the medicine. You can leave. Sadie left the room trembling. She ran to the service restroom and vomited from nerves. It was working. He was remembering. Slowly, the cracks were appearing. But Sloane also noticed. That afternoon, as Sadie was leaving, Sloane intercepted her in the hallway. You are playing with fire, Sloane hissed, cornering Sadie against the wall. I saw him looking at you. He is remembering, Sadie said defiantly. His love is stronger than your lies. Sloane laughed. Love? He feels pity and curiosity. But I will end this tomorrow. The wedding is coming. I need to clean house for good. What are you going to do? Let's just say, tomorrow will be your last day, and the day Donovan will hate you forever. Enjoy your night, rat. Tomorrow you go back to the gutter. Sadie saw Sloane walk away, feeling a chill down her spine. She clutched the watch in her pocket. It had to be tomorrow. She had to show the watch tomorrow before Sloane did whatever she was planning. It was all or nothing. The sun rose pale that day, a milky smudge hidden behind leaden clouds that hung heavy over New York City, promising another summer storm. For Sadie, that grey sky seemed a mirror of her soul. It was the day of all or nothing. Judgment Day. She arrived at the employee entrance of Empire Holdings even before the sun was fully up. Her hands trembled so much that it took her 3 tries to swipe her magnetic badge at the turnstile. The access-granted beep sounded like a countdown. In the deep pocket of her grey polyester uniform, the broken watch seemed to weigh a ton. It knocked against her thigh with every step, a cold, physical reminder of the promise that kept her alive. It was no longer just twisted metal and shattered glass. It was her honor. It was the only material proof that she was not crazy, that she was not the trash Sloane said she was. The villain's words echoed in Sadie's mind like a slow poison. Tomorrow you go back to the gutter. Enjoy your last night. Sadie knew she had no time. If she waited for business hours to begin, if she waited for Donovan to arrive with his entourage of advisors, Sloane would be there. The lady in red would be blocking the door, lying, calling security, creating an insurmountable wall. She needed to be faster. She needed to be a ghost. The service elevator hummed as it ascended the 40 floors. Sadie looked at her distorted reflection on the brushed metal walls. She saw a thin woman with deep, dark circles under her eyes, her hair pulled back in a loose bun, but she also saw fierce determination in her eyes. She had nothing to lose, except the truth. The elevator door opened on the 40th floor. It was deserted. The silence was absolute, broken only by the soft hum of the central air conditioning, keeping the air at an artificially perfect temperature of 68 degrees Fahrenheit. Sadie pushed her cleaning cart down the carpeted hallway, her heart pounding in her throat like a trapped bird, beating its wings against a cage. She stopped before the double solid wood door. The executive suite. The sanctuary. She slowly turned the doorknob. It was unlocked for cleaning. Sadie entered. His scent was there, permeating the air, that woody fragrance, Santal 33, mixed with the smell of leather from the Italian armchairs and the lingering aroma of expensive coffee. Sadie took a deep breath, filling her lungs with that scent, seeking courage in the olfactory memory of their embrace in the shack. "It's now, Van," she whispered to the empty room, her voice trembling. "Please don't hate me. Please remember." She walked to the gigantic glass and steel desk. Her hands were sweating. She reached into her pocket and her fingers touched the cold metal of the watch. She took it out. In the harsh light of the office LED fixtures, the object looked even more destroyed, almost grotesque in contrast with the luxurious perfection of that room. The sapphire glass was shattered into spiderwebs, the leather strap hung by a thread, the gold hands bent, forever stopped at the time of the accident. It was ugly, it was junk, it was trash. But there, carefully placed on top of the pristine documents, on the spreadsheets of millions of dollars and merger contracts, it screamed a visceral truth that no money in the world could buy. Sadie positioned it right in the center, on top of Donovan's black leather planner. Impossible not to see. It was a silent scream amidst the corporate order. "You asked me to keep it," she said, a solitary tear rolling down her face. "You said it was proof you survived. Now I'm giving it back to you, Van, because I need you to survive again. Survive her." She stood there for a second, looking at the watch, feeling an immense emptiness. It was her only connection to him. Leaving the watch there was like tearing out her own heart and leaving it on the table. Ding! The sound of the private elevator in the hallway rang out like a gunshot. Footsteps, heels clicking on the marble floor of the hall. Panic hit Sadie like a physical punch. She could not be seen, standing there, leaning over the table. Sloane would say she was stealing before Donovan even had a chance to look at the watch. Sadie ran. She grabbed the duster from the cart and went to the opposite corner of the room, near the law bookshelf, turning her back to the table, pretending to frantically clean a legal encyclopedia. The door opened. Sadie held her breath. It was not Donovan. It was Sloane. The villain entered, speaking on her cell phone, her voice loud and authoritative, filling the space. "Yes, I want the white orchids, I already said. Yellow is the color of poor people, of paupers' funerals. If there are no white ones, cancel the supplier." Sloane angrily hung up the phone and threw her designer bag, a Birkin that cost more than Sadie's entire house, onto the white leather couch. She stopped. She smoothed her impeccable dress. Then her eagle eyes, trained to find flaws, swept the room. They immediately landed on Donovan's desk. Something was out of place. The perfect symmetry of the CEO's desk was broken by a strange object. Sloane frowned. She walked to the desk, the sound of her heels muffled by the Persian rug. She saw it, the broken watch. The silence in the room was absolute, heavy, suffocating. Sadie, crouched in the corner, felt cold sweat trickle down her back. Sloane did not scream. She did not flinch. She picked up the watch with her fingertips, holding it by its broken strap, with an expression of clinical disgust, as if holding a dead rat by its tail. She held it up against the window light. She recognized it. Of course she recognized it. It was the Patek Philippe she herself had helped choose years ago. The watch that disappeared on the day of the robbery. "So you really kept it," Sloane whispered to herself, a slow, cruel smile curving her blood-red painted lips. "You clever little rat. Did you think you could use this against me?" Sloane looked around slowly. She knew. She smelled fear in the air. "You can come out of your hole, Sadie," Sloane said loudly, her voice calm and terrible. "I know you are there. I smell bleach and despair." Sadie turned slowly, holding the duster like a useless shield. Her legs trembled, but she lifted her chin. "Leave the watch there," Sadie said, her voice trembling but firm. "It's his. He needs to see it." "It's his memory," Sloane laughed, a dry, humorless laugh. "He doesn't need to see anything that reminds him of that filthy day," Sloane replied, walking toward Sadie, swinging the watch in her hand. "Donovan is a new man, my man. He doesn't need memories of the gutter and begging. This," she looked at the watch, "this is trash, just like you." Sloane stopped. She heard voices in the hallway. Donovan's deep voice laughing at something a security guard said. He was seconds away from entering. Sloane's eyes gleamed with sudden malice. The plan formed in her mind in milliseconds. She ran back to the couch where she had left her bag. She opened the Birkin. She threw the broken watch inside, at the bottom, hidden, and she took out her own wallet, a bulky piece studded with Swarovski crystals, shimmering. "What are you going to do?" Sadie asked, taking a step forward, panic rising. "What I promised, darling," Sloane smiled. "To finish you." Sloane looked at Sadie's cleaning cart, parked near the door. In a quick, fluid motion, she moved past the cart and let her wallet drop into the blue trash bag attached to the side. It was subtle, silent. The wallet disappeared among the dirty papers. Sloane turned to the door, lightly disheveled her own hair to appear distraught, and winked at Sadie, and then she screamed. "Help! Security! Thief!" The scream was so loud and shrill that Sadie recoiled, stunned, hitting her back against the bookshelf. The double door burst open. Donovan entered, followed by two enormous security guards and the secretary. He looked startled, his briefcase almost falling from his hand. "Sloane, what is it? What happened?" Sloane ran into his arms, trembling, sobbing, an Oscar-worthy performance. "Darling, thank goodness you're here," she cried, burying her face in his chest, pointing an accusing finger at Sadie. I came in and caught her messing with your desk. She was rummaging through your drawers." Donovan looked at Sadie. His eyes were confused, hurt, shifting between concern for his fiancée and disbelief. "Sadie," he asked, his voice deep, heavy, "is this true?" "No," Sadie cried out, weeping with anger, with helplessness. "She's lying, Van. I didn't touch anything. I came to bring the watch you gave me." "What watch, girl?" Sloane interrupted, pulling away from Donovan and turning with simulated fury. "Stop with this crazy story. You were stealing. Where's my wallet? I left my wallet here on the desk this morning when I stopped by to drop off the invitations. I came to get it and it's gone." Sloane rushed to the desk, pretending to search frantically among the papers. "It's gone. Donovan, my crystal wallet, with all the cards, the catering money, my documents. She stole it. I didn't take anything." Sadie turned to Donovan, clasping her hands in supplication. "Van, please, look at me. I am your angel. I took care of you when you had nothing. I would never steal from you. She hid the watch in her bag. She set it all up." Donovan felt dizzy. His headache throbbed violently. Angel. The word echoed in his mind like a gong. But the scene before him was very clear. His fiancée crying, screaming that she had been robbed, and the cleaner he barely knew, shouting insane conspiracies. "Search her!" Sloane ordered the security guards hysterically. "And search her belongings! Now!" One of the security guards advanced on Sadie, holding her arms behind her back. The other went to the cleaning cart. "Don't bother searching her clothes. Search her trash. That's where people like her hide things," Sloane shouted, directing the search. The security guard reached his gloved hand into the trash bag on the cart. He rummaged through the papers and pulled out the crystal wallet. The sparkle of the crystals under the office light was blinding. It looked like a beacon illuminating the crime. "Here, sir," the security guard said, showing the irrefutable evidence. It was hidden in the trash on the cart. Silence fell over the room like a concrete tombstone. The sound of the air conditioning seemed to have become deafening. Sadie looked at the wallet. She looked at Sloane, who had a tiny, victorious smile hidden behind her hands that covered her mouth in shock. And then Sadie looked at Donovan. The expression on his face broke her heart into 1,000 pieces. It was not anger. It was something worse. It was disappointment. A deep, exhausted disappointment from someone whose faith had been shattered. "I believed in you," Donovan whispered, his voice hoarse. "I defended you against everyone. I felt a connection with you. I thought you were special." "Van, no," Sadie sobbed, trying to break free. "It's a lie." "Don't call me Van," Donovan yelled, a sudden burst of fury that made everyone in the room jump. He slammed his hand on the glass table so hard that a paperweight fell. "My name is Donovan. I'm the CEO of this company, and you are a lying thief who used my medical vulnerability, my memory lapses, to try to manipulate and rob me." He walked up to her, stopping inches from her face. His eyes, once warm, were now dark pits of ice. "Sloane was right all along. You are an addict. You invented this angel and the underpass story to get close to me, and I was foolish enough to doubt my own woman because of your sad eyes." "The watch is in her bag, Van," Sadie whispered, powerless, defeated. "Just look in her bag." Donovan laughed, a bitter laugh of disbelief. "Enough! Get her out of here. Call the police. I want her caught red-handed. I want her booked. Donovan, we don't need the police." Sloane tried to intervene, feigning kindness, but in reality terrified at the idea of the police searching everyone present. "Just fire her, darling. Poor thing. She must be desperate for drugs. Let's avoid a scandal." "No," Donovan said, unyielding. "She crossed the line. She tried to destroy our trust. She humiliated me. Call the police. Now." Sadie was handcuffed right there. The cold metal on her wrists hurt less than his words. She was dragged down the executive suite corridor. Employees came out of their offices to watch. Whispers, laughter, scornful glances. "I knew it wouldn't last. Trash belongs in the trash." Sloane stayed in the room with Donovan. She hugged him from behind, resting her head on his back. "I'm so sorry, darling. I knew she would hurt you. I tried to warn you." Donovan was rigid. He looked out the window at the grey city outside. "I need to be alone, Sloane," he said, pulling away from the embrace, his voice hollow. "Of course, my love. I will go downstairs to speak with the officers, sign the police report, and ensure she never returns." Sloane grabbed her Birkin bag, the watch weighing like lead inside it, and clutched it against her body. "And then I will get some air. I am shaking. I need to breathe." "Go." Sloane hurried out. She had won. But there was still one loose end. The watch. She needed to destroy it now. The executive suite fell silent again. Donovan leaned his forehead against the cold window pane. He felt dirty, betrayed. Why did it hurt so much? She was just a cleaner. Why did it feel like he had just had the only person who truly loved him arrested? He took a deep breath, trying to calm the migraine throbbing in his temples. He walked to his desk. He needed to work. He needed to forget. He sat down. He looked at the black leather planner. There was a small scratch on the leather, a circular mark, as if something rough and metallic had been placed there and dragged. Donovan ran his finger over the scratch. "She said she put the watch here," he murmured. The doubt, that damn doubt, returned. "The watch is in her bag, Van." Donovan shook his head. "No, Sadie was a thief. The wallet was in her trash. End of story." But Sloane acted strangely. The wallet story. She said she forgot it that morning, but Donovan was in the office all morning. He didn't see any wallet on the table. And his desk was meticulously organized. And why did she rush out with her bag clutched so tightly to her body? Donovan looked at the computer. "Security," he said, typing his master password. "Internal cameras, executive suite, last 30 minutes. He needed to see Sadie stealing the wallet to be sure and kill this doubt that gnawed at his stomach. The screen flickered. The file opened. Error. File corrupted. Data missing. Donovan froze. The mouse cursor stopped blinking on the black screen. High-tech security cameras do not corrupt themselves exactly during the 30 minutes of a crime inside the CEO's office. "Sloan," he whispered. Sloan had the administrative passwords. She controlled the system. Anger began to rise. Not the cold, disappointed anger from before, but a hot, volcanic anger. The anger of a man who realizes he is being made a fool of. He picked up the landline. He dialed an internal extension that did not go through the secretary. "Felix." "It's me." Felix was the head of IT, a genius whom Donovan took from the slum and paid for college. Loyal to Donovan, and only to Donovan. "Boss?" The voice on the other end sounded surprised. "Felix, the video from my office is gone. The system says corrupted. I want to know if there's a backup." "Boss, the cloud system Ms. Sloan installed has a delete delay, but she knows how to delete. However, the mirror server in the basement, that old analog one you ordered kept for security against hackers, it records everything on raw digital tape. Nobody touches it. Bring me the recording. Now, nobody can know. I am coming up." 5 minutes. Those were the longest 5 minutes of Donovan's life. He paced back and forth in the room, like a caged animal. Felix entered, pale, carrying a rugged tablet connected to a heavy external drive. "It is here, boss. I pulled it directly from the mirror server. No edits." Donovan took the tablet. His hands were clammy. "You can leave, Felix. Lock the door. Nobody comes in." Donovan sat down. He pressed play. The video was from an overhead angle, black and white, grainy but clear enough. He saw the empty room. He saw Sadie enter. He saw the fear in her body. He saw her take something from her pocket. Donovan paused. He zoomed in with trembling fingers. It was a watch. A destroyed watch. She placed it on the table with reverent, almost sacred delicacy. Her lips moved. Donovan instinctively read her lips. "I'm giving it back to you." Donovan felt a tightness in his chest that almost made him stop breathing. The watch. She really brought it. She wasn't lying. He pressed play. Sadie ran to hide with the duster. Sloan entered. Donovan saw his fiancée's demeanor change when she thought she was alone. He saw the arrogance. He saw her pick up the watch. He saw the disgust on her face. And then he saw the crime. He saw Sloan take her own wallet from her purse and, with a quick movement as she passed the cart, throw it in the trash. He saw Sloan put the watch in her Birkin bag. And then the confrontation. The fake scream. The act. Donovan dropped the tablet on the table as if it were on fire. He felt nauseous. The bitter taste rose in his throat. He had ordered the innocent woman arrested. He had embraced the snake. He had called the only woman loyal to him a thief. But where was the watch now? Sloan left the room with her purse. She said she was going to get some air. Donovan grabbed his cell phone. He opened the corporate tracking application. All executives had GPS in their badges and cell phones for kidnapping security. Sloan S.'s location, basement level 2, loading dock. Donovan frowned. Why would she go to the loading dock to get some air? It was the dirtiest place in the building. Unless she wanted to destroy the watch. Throwing it in a regular trash can was risky. Someone might find it. But in basement level 2 was the industrial compactor, the construction company's metal and debris shredder. What fell in there disappeared forever. Donovan did not think. He did not grab his jacket. He did not call the private elevator. He ran to the door. He ran to the emergency stairs. Going down 40 floors by elevator would take too long if it stopped on every floor. He went down 2 flights of stairs, skipping steps, and took the freight elevator on the 38th floor, which was express. He was frantic. The memory of the underpass was still blocked by physical trauma, but the moral certainty that Sadie was the angel was now absolute. The video proved her character. She kept that trash for months. She risked her freedom to return it to him. The freight elevator opened on basement level 2. The smell was unbearable. Oil, garbage, truck exhaust. Donovan ran across the concrete platform, his Italian shoe slapping on the grease. The cleaning and loading staff stopped, shocked, seeing the CEO running through the dirt, disheveled, sweating. There was the dumpster, the enormous red dumpster marked Shredder Non-Recyclable Waste. The shredder's motor was on, a deep, dangerous rumble. The blades were starting to spin. An employee had his hand on the operating lever. "Stop!" Donovan yelled, his voice tearing through his throat, echoing off the damp concrete walls. "Turn it off!" The employee jumped in surprise and pulled the lever back. The engine sputtered and stopped. "Mr. Donovan." Donovan arrived out of breath, his expensive suit stained with grease from the handrail. Has anyone been here?" Donovan asked, resting his hands on his knees, trying to breathe. Ms. Sloane. She just left through the other side. She came to throw away a personal package. She said it was confidential and told me to turn on the machine as soon as she turned her back. Where? Where did she throw it?" "Over there, boss. In the middle. That blue velvet bag." Donovan looked. Amidst wood scraps, twisted metal, and black trash bags, there was a small blue velvet bag, the kind used for jewelry, which Sloane must have used to avoid getting her hand dirty on the watch. He did not hesitate. He jumped. Donovan, the billionaire, the untouchable man who never stepped on wet ground, climbed the side of the dumpster and plunged into the trash. "Mr. Donovan, don't do that, it's dangerous," the employee shouted. Donovan slipped on fruit peels and oil. He tore his pants. His hands got dirty with black grease. He crawled over the unstable trash. He reached the blue bag. His hands trembled violently. He untied the drawstring. He emptied the bag into his palm. It fell out. The watch. Stained with coffee grounds, its crystal even more cracked from the impact of falling into the dumpster. But it was it, the Patek Philippe Donovan's grandfather gave him, the watch that was on his wrist the night of the storm. The moment his skin touched the cold metal of the watch, it wasn't just an object he found, it was the key. The physical touch, combined with the adrenaline and the smell of trash, the same smell as the underpass, triggered the neural impulse. The mental barrier shattered like glass. Violent flashback, torrential rain, excruciating headache, the bone-chilling cold, a warm, calloused hand holding his, a sweet voice humming a lullaby, the taste of stale, sweet bread split in half, the tight embrace on the damp cardboard. "I am not going anywhere, Van. You are my angel. I will give you the world." Donovan fell to his knees in the trash. He clutched the watch to his chest, staining his immaculate white shirt with black lichate. He closed his eyes and a scream tore from his throat. A primal scream of pain, of regret, and of a love reborn with full force. Sadie. He remembered everything. Her smile, the hunger she endured to give him water, how she dragged him through the mud to save him, and the image of her being handcuffed minutes ago, looking at him with disappointment, being called a thief by the very man she saved. He had ordered the arrest of the woman of his life. Donovan stood up. He looked like a demon rising from hell, covered in trash, his eyes burning with fury and tears. He climbed out of the dumpster, jumping onto the concrete ground. The employee recoiled, frightened by his boss's expression. Donovan grabbed his cell phone. He dialed a direct number. "Captain, this is Donovan from Empire Holdings." His voice was pure steel. "I know you already took Sadie. I am going to the precinct now. Do not process her record. Do not send her to prison." He paused, looking at the watch in his dirty hand. "Keep her safe. I am coming to get her and prepare a new cell, because tonight the real criminal, the woman who stole my life, will sleep behind bars." He hung up. He started running towards his sports car. Sloane must be at the beauty salon now, getting ready for the engagement dinner, thinking she had won the game. She did not know the beggar had just woken up. He was thirsty for blood. Cell Block 4 of the 18th Precinct had no windows. There was only a peeling iron grate and a fluorescent light buzzing on the ceiling, flickering intermittently like a Morse code of despair. The sterile white light cast long shadows on the grey concrete walls, which exuded dampness and sorrow. The air inside was heavy, dense, a suffocating mix of mold, dried urine, old sweat, and the metallic smell of cheap disinfectant that burned at the back of the throat. Sadie sat on the cold cement bench, huddled in the darkest corner as far as possible from the bars. She hugged her knees, trying to stop trembling, but the cold came from within. She no longer cried. Her tears had dried hours ago, leaving only a trail of salt and dirt on her face, tightening her skin. Her eyes were fixed on her hands, still marked by the grip of the metal handcuffs. It was over. The word echoed in her mind, pounding against the walls of her skull. There were no angels. There were no fairy tales. There was no divine justice for people like her. There was only the brutal reality of those born without noble lineage. Her word was worth less than the trash she swept. Donovan, the man she had warmed with her own body, had looked into her eyes and seen a criminal. That hurt more than prison. It hurt more than hunger. It hurt more than the fear of being condemned. His betrayal was a knife twisting in her chest. "Hey, rookie," a woman's hoarse voice from the next cell cut through the silence. "Lift your head. You have a visitor coming. It must be the public defender to tell you you're screwed and make you sign the confession." Sadie didn't even move. A lawyer? What a joke. She didn't have money for a coffee at the bakery, let alone for a lawyer who cared. She would sign anything. She would accept the blame. She just wanted it to be over. "Nay, it's better to confess, girl," the woman continued in a tired voice. "The judge likes those who bow their heads. A poor person who tries to defend themselves only gets more trouble." Sadie closed her eyes, wishing to disappear. Suddenly, there was a commotion in the main corridor of the precinct. It wasn't the routine sound of police officers talking or phones ringing. There were raised voices, shouts, fast, heavy footsteps running on the linoleum floor. Footsteps of someone in a hurry and with power. "You cannot enter there. It's a restricted custody area," shouted a police officer, his voice tinged with panic. "Get out of my way." The answer came in a deep, authoritative roar. "I will buy this entire precinct and turn it into a parking lot if you don't get out of my way." Sadie shuddered. Her heart skipped a beat. That voice. The iron grate in the hallway slammed against the wall. Sadie looked up, startled, cowering further against the cold concrete. In the hallway, marching towards her cell like a force of nature, was Donovan. But it was not the impeccable CEO in a navy suit with gel in his hair who had humiliated her hours earlier. The man running towards her looked like he had just emerged from a war trench. The $1,000 Italian suit was torn at the leg, the fine fabric hanging in shreds. The white shirt, once immaculate, was covered in black stains of oil, grease, and grime. His silk tie was gone. His hair was disheveled, matted to his forehead with sweat and dirt. He smelled of garbage, a strong, sour, rotten smell. He stopped in front of the bars of Cell Block 4. He gripped the iron bars with his dirty hands, his knuckles turning white from the force, as if he wanted to tear the metal out with his bare hands. His eyes, red and frantic, swept across the gloom of the cell. When he saw her, small, defeated, dirty, her cleaner's uniform crumpled, his face contorted. It was an expression of physical pain so intense it looked as if he had been shot in the chest. "Open it," he growled at the jailer, who came running behind him, panting, jingling a bunch of keys. "Open this damn door now." "Mr. Donovan, the captain said he needs the protocol." "To hell with the protocol. Open it." The shout echoed through the entire precinct, silencing the other prisoners. The jailer, trembling, shoved the key into the lock. The metallic click sounded like a thunderclap of freedom. The bar slid open with a sharp creak. Donovan did not walk in. He ran in and dropped to his knees on the dirty concrete floor, sliding until he was in front of Sadie. Sadie instinctively recoiled, pressing her back against the cold wall. She was afraid. The man who had ordered her arrest was there, looking insane, unstable. "No," she whispered, raising her hands to cover her face. "I didn't do anything. Please, don't hurt me. I'll sign, I'll confess, just leave me alone." Her reaction, the pure fear in her eyes, broke Donovan in half. He let out a strangled sound, a dry sob. "No, no, no." Donovan began to cry. Not the restrained, elegant cry of an executive, the ugly, noisy, desperate, sobbing cry of the homeless man from the underpass. "It's me, Sadie, it's me, Van, your Van." He tried to take her hand, but stopped in midair, seeing the black grease on his own hands, and remembering that he had no right to touch her. He withdrew his hands, ashamed. "Forgive me," he sobbed, bowing his head until his forehead touched her knee, staining her grey uniform with his sweat and tears. "I am a monster. I am blind. I should have died in that rain before doing this to you. I should have stayed at the underpass." Sadie slowly lowered her hands. She looked at him, confused, her heart racing erratically. Was he asking for forgiveness? "Van." Donovan lifted his head. His eyes were swollen, but they shone with a clarity she had not seen in months. The fog had lifted. He reached into the pocket of his torn pants and pulled out something, a small blue velvet pouch stained with mud. He opened the pouch with trembling hands and let the contents fall into his palm. The watch. Even more broken, with the glass almost pulverized, covered in a film of oil, but it was there, rescued from hell. "I found it," he said, his voice cracking, showing the object as if it were the Holy Grail. "I went into the trash. I dove into the compactor, Sadie, and when I touched it, I remembered. I remembered the taste of stale bread. I remembered the cold in my bones. I remembered that you saved me when no one else cared. I remembered that you called me Van when I had no name. I remembered that you are my angel." Sadie looked at the watch. Then she looked into his eyes. The CEO's coldness had evaporated. The arrogance had been washed away by the dirt. There, kneeling in the filth of a cell, was the man she had fallen in love with. "You remembered," she whispered, her voice choked, feeling the warm tears return, but now with relief. "I will never forget," he swore, holding her gaze. "I will spend the rest of my life crawling to beg for your forgiveness if I have to. I will give you the world, remember, I promised. But please, come out of here with me. Don't stay in this place for another second. I can't stand to see you here." Sadie pushed herself off the wall. The fear dissolved. She extended her trembling hand and touched his dirty face. She ran her thumb across his cheek, wiping away a heavy grease stain, exactly as she had done with the rainwater under the underpass on their first night. "Get up, Van," she said softly, with a tenderness he knew he did not deserve. "This floor is cold, and you get sick easily." Donovan closed his eyes at her touch, releasing a trembling sigh. He took her hand and kissed it. He kissed her calloused palm, her fingers rough from cleaning products, her wrist where the handcuff had left a red, painful mark. "Let's go," he said, standing up and pulling her with him as if she were made of glass. They left the cell hand in hand. His grip was firm, possessive, protective. At the precinct desk, the captain was nervously signing papers. "Mr. Donovan, it was a terrible misunderstanding. Ms. Sloane said she saw—" Donovan stopped. The mention of the name made the room's temperature drop 10 degrees. "Ms. Sloane is the criminal," Donovan said, his voice calm, low, and lethal. "Keep this young woman's record clean. Tear up everything. And, Captain, send a patrol car to the Imperial Ballroom now." "And to the party?" The captain blinked, confused. "Do you want security?" "No, I want handcuffs." Donovan looked at the glass door, where night had already fallen. "Because the real thief, The woman who stole my life and tried to destroy an innocent person will leave there under arrest. Be there in 20 minutes. Yes, sir. Donovan looked at Sadie. He looked at her cleaning uniform. He looked at his own ruined suit. I will finish what she started, Donovan said to Sadie. Do you trust me? Sadie squeezed his hand. Always. Donovan's car, an armored sports sedan, glided through the streets of New York City, but the silence inside was not heavy. It was the silence of those who had just survived a shipwreck. Donovan drove with one hand, the other holding Sadie's hand on the center console, refusing to let go even to shift gears. She will be there, Donovan said, looking at the road, engaged, happy, celebrating victory. What are you going to do? Sadie asked. She looked at her own clothes. Van, we cannot go in there like this. It is the party of the year. Everyone is in formal wear. We smell like trash. Donovan smiled. It was a sad but genuine smile. That is exactly how we are going to go in, my love. They need to see, they need to smell the truth. Sloane built a castle of perfumed lies. We are going in there with reality. He squeezed her hand. I saw the video, Sadie. The video from the room. I saw you putting on the watch. I saw the tenderness with which you treated that piece of junk. His voice cracked. How did you manage? How did you manage to love me after everything I did? After I treated you like trash in the lobby? Sadie looked at the city passing by the window. Because I knew that man in the suit was not you, Van. It was a shell. The man I love shared stale bread with me and gave me the only thing of value he had. That man was worth fighting for. Donovan stopped the car at the red light. He turned to her and caressed her face with his dirty hand. I will spend every day of my life trying to be that man again for you. Only this time, I will give you the palace, not the shack. The light turned green. Donovan accelerated. His destination was the reckoning. The Imperial Ballroom was a monument to excess. Gigantic crystal chandeliers, the size of economy cars, hung from the high ceiling, illuminating tables decorated with Egyptian linen tablecloths and solid silver cutlery. The elite of society was there, drinking French champagne at $500 a bottle, eating caviar canapés and talking about mergers and acquisitions. At the center of it all, like a queen spider in her golden web, was Sloane. She was radiant in a golden sequined dress that cost the price of an apartment. She held a crystal glass, smiling, greeting shareholders, receiving insincere congratulations. Donovan should be arriving soon, she said to a group of wealthy ladies, her voice syrupy. He had a small setback at the company. You know how much of a perfectionist he is. But tonight is our night. The merger of Empire Holdings with my holding company. And of course our wedding. She touched the diamond engagement ring on her finger, satisfied. The broken watch was destroyed at the bottom of the disposal, or so she thought. The cleaner was imprisoned, probably crying in a filthy cell. Donovan was hurt, vulnerable, needing comfort. Everything had gone perfectly. The MC stepped onto the stage and took the microphone. Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. The CEO of Empire Holdings has just arrived. The orchestra's soft music increased in volume. The tall, golden, heavy-maned double doors slowly began to open. Sloane positioned herself in the center of the ballroom, opening her arms, preparing her winning smile to receive her trophy, her puppet husband. Presenting Donovan and his fiancée, the doors opened completely. The silence that fell over the ballroom was instant, violent, and absolute. The orchestra's music faltered and stopped. Glasses stopped halfway to mouths. Waiters froze. There was Donovan, but he was not in a tuxedo. He looked like a survivor of a natural disaster, filthy. His suit was torn, his shirt stained with black oil and organic waste. His hair stood on end. He looked like a madman, and he was not alone. Holding his hand, head held high, was Sadie. still in her grey, spotless services cleaning uniform, 2 sizes too big, with her badge hanging around her neck and mud-stained sneakers. The contrast was brutal. The obscene wealth of the ballroom against their dirty, raw reality. The smell of garbage began to invade the ballroom, clashing with the guests' French perfume. Noses wrinkled, murmurs began. Sloane dropped her glass. The crystal shattered on the floor, scattering champagne and shards, but no one looked. Everyone was staring at the door. "What is that?" someone whispered. "Is it a protest?" Donovan started walking. He pulled Sadie with him. They crossed the central aisle, parting the crowd like Moses parting the Red Sea. People recoiled, shocked, shielding their expensive clothes from the dirt that emanated from them. Sloane tried to regain control. Panic flashed in her eyes for a second, but she was a professional player. She laughed, a nervous, high-pitched laugh. "Donovan! My God!" She ran to him, trying to block the guest's view, trying to create a narrative. "What happened? Were you in a car accident? Are you hurt? And what is this creature doing here? Security, get her out of here. She must have caused the accident." Donovan did not even slow his pace. When Sloane tried to touch his arm with her manicured hands, he recoiled with visceral disgust. "Do not touch me," he said. His voice was not loud, but it was heard by everyone around. "Your hands are dirtier than this trash." He stepped onto the stage, taking Sadie with him. He took the microphone from the trembling hand of the MC. "Good evening, everyone," Donovan said. His voice echoed through the speakers, deep, hoarse, and steady. "Forgive my attire and my scent. I just returned from the place where my fiancée tried to throw my life away, literally." Sloane was pale at the foot of the stage, but she still fought. "Donovan, you are delirious," she yelled, turning to the audience. "He is in shock, everyone. His head trauma has returned. He is not making any sense. Call a doctor. Someone take the microphone from him." "The only trauma I have is having trusted you for so many years," Donovan replied, looking down at her, merciless. "Felix, play the video." The giant LED screen behind the stage, which was supposed to show a romantic photo montage of the couple in Paris and Milan, flickered. And then the grainy black and white image appeared. The entire ballroom gasped in unison. There was the executive suite, giant, clear for all to see. Everyone saw Sadie enter. They saw the reverence with which she placed the watch on the table. Everyone saw Sloane enter. They saw her disgusted face as she picked up the watch. They saw the exact moment she took her own wallet from her purse and threw it into the cleaner's trash can. They saw her hide the watch in her Birkin bag, and they saw the grotesque act of "Help, thief!" laughing right after. The video ended. The screen went black. The ballroom was in deadly silence. Hundreds of eyes turned to Sloane. The judgment was silent, but overwhelming. Sloane was paralyzed. The mask had fallen, but she tried one last desperate move. "This is fake!" she screamed, her voice shrill. "It's a setup. It's a deep fake. He is being manipulated by this woman. She is a witch. She brainwashed him. Don't you see? She wants his money." Donovan stepped down from the stage and stood in front of her. "You told me she was an addict," Donovan said, holding Sadie's hand, raising it for everyone to see. "You said she was trash. But it was you, Sloane, who went to basement level 2, to the toxic waste dumpster, to throw my grandfather's gift into the shredder." He reached into his pocket and pulled out the broken watch, still dripping oil. He held it up. "This is worth more than everything you have," Donovan said, his voice choked, "because this carries the truth. And the truth is that this woman, this cleaner you humiliated and had arrested, saved me from death when I was nobody. She gave me the only water she had. She gave me her body's warmth so I wouldn't freeze to death in a wooden shack, while you only wanted the CEO. You only wanted the merger." "She is an opportunist!" Sloane screamed, losing her composure, her face contorted with hatred, her makeup running. She is a dirty lowlife. I did this to protect you. I am your fiancé. We are partners. Are you going to destroy a billion-dollar merger because of a housekeeper? I would rather lose every cent of this company. I would rather go back to living under the underpass than spend another minute by your side, Donovan replied with terrifying calm. At that moment, the back doors opened again. The police sirens, already heard in the distance, now flashed at the entrance. The captain entered, followed by 4 officers. Sloane looked around, searching for an exit, an ally, but she was surrounded by the elite who now looked at her with the same contempt she reserved for the poor. No one moved to help her. "Sloane," the captain announced loudly, walking up to her, "you are under arrest for false reporting of a crime, slander, grand theft, obstruction of justice, and destruction of evidence." "No, you can't touch me. Do you know who I am? I know the governor!" Sloane screamed, struggling as she was handcuffed, scratching the officers. "Donovan, do something! I love you! Don't let them take me!" Donovan merely looked at her, cold as ice. "I know who you are, Sloane. You are the woman who tried to erase my angel. Get her out of here. Her smell is making me sick." Sloane was dragged out, screaming obscenities, calling Sadie every name imaginable, crying, her golden dress crumpled. The humiliation she had meticulously planned for Sadie had come back to her like a deadly boomerang. When the doors closed, taking her screams with them, the ballroom remained silent. The tension still vibrated in the air. Donovan turned to Sadie. They were in the middle of the stage, dirty, tired, broken, surrounded by strangers in formal wear. But for the first time, they were alone in their universe, free. Donovan took Sadie's 2 hands. She was crying silently, clean tears washing her dirty face. "I'm sorry," he said again, in front of 300 people. "I am sorry for letting go of your hand that day in the ambulance. I am sorry for not recognizing you in the lobby. I am sorry for being weak." "You remembered." Sadie smiled through her tears, her voice trembling. "That is all that matters, Van. You came back to me." Donovan smiled. He picked up the broken watch. The strap was broken, but he carefully wrapped it around Sadie's thin wrist, tying the loose leather ends with a granny knot, as if it were an eternal friendship bracelet. "I promised to give you the world. Remember? Back in the shack?" he whispered. "I do not need the world, Van," she replied, touching his dirty face, not caring who was watching. "I only need you. My beggar. The rest is just noise. The beggar is yours. The CEO is yours. Everything I am is yours." Donovan knelt right there on the stage, ignoring protocol, ignoring the dirt on his knee, ignoring the billions in shocked shareholders. "Sadie..." He pulled a small box from his pocket. No, he did not have a ring. He just held her hand with the watch tied to it. "Will you marry me? Will you agree to be the owner of my life, my home, and my heart? Will you agree to save me every day for the rest of our lives?" Sadie looked at him. She looked at the broken watch on her wrist, shining under the chandelier lights more than any diamond in that room. That trash was her crown. "I accept, Van. I accept 1,000 times." He stood up and kissed her. It was not a staged soap opera kiss. It was a passionate, desperate, real, hungry kiss. A kiss from someone who almost died and started breathing again. A kiss that tasted of tears, of earth, and of absolute victory. For the first time that night, someone started to applaud. It was a waiter at the back of the ballroom who had watched everything with tears in his eyes. Then the cleaners who were peeking through the service door started clapping, and then, infected by the raw and genuine emotion that no money could buy, the rich guests started to applaud as well. A standing ovation filled the ballroom. They were not applauding money. They were not applauding power. They were applauding the love that survived the trash, the love that conquered evil. Donovan and Sadie left the ballroom hand in hand, walking down the red carpet, leaving behind the party, the villain, and the painful past. They had a future to build, and this time no one, ever again, would let go of anyone's hand. Did you like this story of love, justice, and a twist? Do you think Sloane got the ending she deserved, or was prison not enough for so much wickedness? And Donovan, did he prove he deserved Sadie's forgiveness after everything? Tell me here in the comments. Until the next exciting story,